15th, 2026 to order. Christina, would you call roll, please?
Brad Chance,
Here.
Greg McGee, Steve McLucky,
Present.
Jerry Martell,
Here.
Les Boatwright.
Here.
And you got the meeting minutes from November 20th in front of you. Any questions, comments, concerns, or a motion? Move to approve. Okay, is there a second? You got a second? Would you call roll, Christina, please?
Brad Chance,
Approve.
Steve McLucky,
Yes.
Jerry Martell,
Yes.
Les Boatwright.
Yes. Wow. Don't get too close. All right, so let's go ahead. Finance and admin, if the utility financial reports.
Yeah, we can get started there. If we want to start off on the first page, power and light. Amended budget year to date's at 72 million of the 157 million budgeted. We came in at around 4.45% of total operating revenue. And we can see our total operating expense was at 0.53. So we definitely saw a good outlay of revenue versus our expense for the month of November. And if we come down to our following page, our amended budget for capital projects was at $51 million. We've utilized 776,000 of that so far. And the following page will have all the list of all of those capital projects that are currently in the works. Any questions on IPL?
Anything from you, Joe, on any of the capital projects or IPL?
Don't worry, I'm going to spend the money. The capital projects will be executed.
All you have to say is
There's a lot of big
trust me,
projects
we're covered.
coming. Yeah, so I know it makes my reserves look inflated, and we have this discussion every time, right? But these capital projects, they're going to get going once I can get personnel to help implement those.
Okay, thank you. Continue on.
Okay, moving on to water. Total operating revenues of 14 million year to date. We're sitting at 3.21%. Total operating expenses up a little bit. We did have a large debt service payment that was made in November as well. You'll see that on the second to the lowest line at 46.94%. So that brought our expenses up a little bit, but that'll drop off come December. That was just a large payment that went out. And then the following, we have our capital projects listed. Our amended budget amount was 32 million. They've utilized 3.5 million of that year to date. And the following page has a list of those projects. And as Joe said, I'll speak for the water department. I'm sure they'll use the money very soon. And then following up with sanitary sewer, total operating for the year, we're at 14 million of our 35 amended budget. Percent from budget's a little bit lower than normal. It came in at 1.09. And then coming down to total operating expenses, we're at 1.96 on the year. That also, they had the debt service that we had paid for water also was part of sanitary sewer. So we see that line come through on the operating expenses. And then the following page we'll talk about the amended budget for capital projects for sanitary sewers at 21 million. Year to date, they've used just a little over $2 million of that. And then a list of following projects on the following page.
Okay, any questions? I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to municipal services, update on the transformer issue at water plant and after action discussion.
Yes, excuse me. I think when we met last time, we had talked about purchasing an additional transformer, so we would have one on site. We had located one in Topeka. The turnaround time usually is quite long to get these throughout the country. When we put pen to paper and asked for a quote so we could get it in front of council, they said, "Oh, well, we don't actually have it. We will be refurbishing one. It'll be available in about 60 weeks." So we kind of stopped right then. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose of hurrying up and getting a refurbished one because it was handy and close. So we're going to be putting out an RFP or an RFQ, depending on how finance wants us to do that, to see what's out there nationwide. We know that this one's going to be available within the next year-ish, but there could be something sitting out there that's already available, or something that could be available in 2 or 3 months. So so we're going to put that out. The other slight change here is we originally were going to purchase it and store it, so we had it as a backup. We've decided probably the better use of having the third one is to install it and put it in service. So when we do take one down to be serviced, we can actually transfer service to that third one. Not really rocket science here, but it didn't really dawn on us initially. So we will, even if we have one out of service, we will always have that double feed coming in. So that's the route we're going, which is also why we're probably going to have to put out an RFP, because we're not really sure how that would work, where it would be installed. It's not just simply buying the unit; it's going to have it installed. So, so that's the route we're going to go with that. I know we had also discussed looking at a backup generator of sorts. Obviously, it's more complex than just purchasing a generator and plugging it in. We're going to be putting out an RFP probably next week, probably the end of next week, to kind of do a feasibility study, essentially, to find out what are the needs, how big would it have to be, are there certain things we don't need to run? Do we can just run the essential functions? Where would it go? What kind of wiring? All the background information to see, is it worth making that big investment of multi-million-dollar investment for something that we may never use, or is it better just to do this extra transformer? So we're going to be looking at all that in the next month and a half or so. We've already been looking at it. So that's that. We have had a couple of after action discussions since the event. The biggest thing that's come out of that has been the notification side. We talked about that at our last meeting, kind of or lack thereof, to send something out immediately to notify not just our wholesalers or the big industrial or commercial customers, but the residential customers as well. We are utilizing through emergency management a system called Smart 911. However, it is an opt-in system only, so the public has to opt in before we can send them text messages, for obvious reasons, because they could get charged potentially, and we got to get permission from them first. So we would like people to sign up for that, and we recommend that they do. You can go to the city's website, go to emergency management tab, and there'll be a spot there where you can sign up and enter your information into Smart 911.
Yeah,
So-
the Smart 911, some people know it as RAVE.
Rave.
That's
Rave.
kind of the product number
Yep.
in that company. So either one, Smart 911 or RAVE,
Yes.
we'll get them to it on the emergency preparedness page.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, guess not. Thank you. We're going down here to IPL. A few things here. Update on the AMI program manager.
So I'm going to start off with an announcement that probably will not make people happy, but due to the holidays and the personnel that we've discussed in the past, we're probably going to have to estimate a few more cycles this
on the
month
billing.
just to get us caught. We really need to get caught up so that we can move forward. And the reason I say that leads into the next one is because AMI will hopefully alleviate some of those issues, right? I'm happy. So on the flip side, I'm happy to announce that we actually finally came to terms and conditions with the AMI program manager to move forward. So that'll be moving for council approval here in the very near future. TMG Utility Advisory Services is who was selected as the group to help lead us through this process. And I think, I've had my deputy here in the past to kind of describe the difference between a project manager and a program manager, because they're really going to be here for the long term, help us from the beginning of selecting the technologies, the network side of it, seeing us through the installation and how that works and clear through till the end. So overseeing the whole thing as a program rather than just somebody who's going to come in and install meters or install something. That's a part of the project, but this really is an overall program. And we wanted them to help us with also communications with the public and help us interface and understand our customers and be able to come up with the right product and the right solutions, not only just from the technology of the meter, but the interfaces and what kind of programs will help help the public in the future as well from that technology. So we're moving forward with that, which is good news. That's been we've been kind of stalled for a few months on terms and conditions and kind of the legal side of it, but this morning it freed up and we'll be able to move forward. Next item is update on Independence Power Partners. So last week, IPL hosted a rather large meeting. I had not only the data center individuals with all of their different engineering groups, but I also had Independence Power Partners and their engineering and procurement construction groups as well. And we conducted a large meeting that was kind of a coordination meeting. Even though they're on both ends, like you have generation over here and the load over here, I wanted to make sure we had coordinated efforts, that we weren't stepping on each other's toes or double designing something that one group maybe thought the other was, and or on the flip side, missing some scope. As far as Independence Power Partners, we also have that Able battery that's going to be connecting to our substation A. Wanted to make sure that the Independence Power Partners understood that, so if they're designing any connections of the generation to that same substation, that we weren't, again, reiterating work or going to build something that we'd have to take down in the near future and rebuild again. So everything is moving forward. Actually, the first set of turbines, because those were already in the queue to be constructed, I think the first set of turbines are actually going to be completed later this fall. And those will be stored somewhere until the site is ready to receive them, because it's not till October of 27 that we actually bring that plant online. Phase 1, that is. Any questions with that? I know we hosted an open house on Monday to talk about the data center specifically, and then talked in pretty grave detail that evening at the study session as well, talking about protections, rates, and how the data center is going to become part of this community and provide some great benefits to us for a long time. Is there any questions before I leave that subject on
Any
that?
questions? I just want to throw out there for those that may see this online, there's so much misinformation out there right now about this data center. Please do your homework. I know they always say everything that's on the internet's true. Ha ha. Please don't believe everything you read on Facebook. You see somebody else's post and then get all worked up. Do your research, do your homework before you make some decision or make a statement that's so totally 180 from what's going on. This is going to be a big benefit for the community. It's not all the, disaster and gloom that everybody talks about, what it's going to do to the environment and things. Just do your homework, do your research before you make any kind of statement like that. All right, appreciate that update on that. Mr. McCluskey?
Let me ask a question about noise. That was a big issue. How much is this, the noise going to happen? How much how far will it reach is what I'm trying to say. And then they talked about mitigation, plantings, doing some things there. What about the turbines that are going into the Blue Valley plant? Is that I don't know how loud they are. I don't know what we plan for planting or putting walls or how that all works. But I know at the first, not the meeting, but at the session, at the round table, I heard a lot about noise mitigation there as well.
And I understand the concerns. So a couple of things about, so we'll talk the phase 1 turbines, the small, there's 15, there's a number of them.
Yep.
They're very modular. They can actually come in on a truck. They're completely enclosed. They're also not, if you're in the industry and you understand combustion turbines back in the day used to just have an exhaust, manifold, and they would go right out. Well, these are going to have pretty sophisticated back-end environmental controls on them as well, which in and of itself dampens the sound. But I have also already been in conversations with the Independence Power Partners to put a sound wall around those turbines along Truman Road and then North Powell. So they're already putting that as part of the project, because I heard the concerns early, and it's also helps with getting things out of sight as well. It'll look nicer if we just have a wall rather than seeing that industrial area. So there are plans to mitigate it from the plant side as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think the last item I will pass to Finance Manager Amy for covering of the IPL statistical charts.
Good afternoon. As Joe mentioned, the billing period that we're looking at for the month of November was impacted by some of the estimated readings. So if we focus on like the total kilowatt usage, we are still right in line with the prior 2 years, following the same trend we would expect. We may see in the coming months maybe some shifts that will be truing up some of those estimated readings, but I think overall, including if we roll down to and look at our total billed revenue for November, we are right in line with the prior 2 years. Then you have your breakdown of your individual classes. And the page that we're looking at, our cumulative, we're right on target really for cumulative kilowatt hour with the prior 2 years, and same with our cumulative billed revenue. We do have our weather data on the last page with the estimated readings. That could certainly skew what we're seeing on our consumption. So keep that in mind over the coming months as we get caught up. I think we'll see that starting to true up and level back out when we get all of our readings in. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions on the financial reports?
I'm going to go ahead and repeat myself because I continue to see comments and hear comments. When we have estimated billings, if you end up being estimated higher than your actual use, that is not money that IPL just keeps and says, hoorah, we estimated high. Your bills will be corrected at the very next time we have an actual reading, and you will get either a credit on your bill or if we estimated lower, then the difference will be on your next bill. Rates are set by city council. We don't get to just change rates because I continually hear how we've jacked up rates and just keep moving it to the moon. We did get rid of the 6% discount a couple of years ago after the COVID initiative, and we are currently sitting at rates equivalent to what we had in 2012. So I know I continue to say that, but I continue to hear the same kind of comments. So I just want to make sure I'm clear about that doesn't change. IPL does not change those rates. We make recommendations, and those are approved by city council.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter on the community awareness page about the estimated bills and how they're so much higher and what's going on, that type of thing. And some issues raised too about they weren't getting their bills.
So some of the bills were a little bit delayed due to the estimating process because, again, we don't just grab a number out of a hat. It is a computed number that looks at past averages of several years and the past few months. And so it's not an easy thing. And we check as many of the bills as we can as well. So
Okay.
yeah, it takes more time than the actual reads because those are pretty straightforward when we know actually what the usage is.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you. We'll just have to keep telling the story, I guess. And thank you on the charts. They really do help us understand that a little better. Really do like them. Okay, now we're down to the Independence Interim City Manager, Lisa. I was going to say Grand Puab, but I wasn't going to go there.
I don't get my normal title. Hurts a little bit. All right.
Just trying to be more professional, but oh well.
Overrated. All right. Update on IPL governance. So we met with the city council earlier this week in a roundtable discussion about the potential charter changes related to IPL governance. The two real outstanding items on the potential charter changes were related to the composition and all those things, and then what was allowable for economic development for the board. So where we've landed currently is that the board would have the quorum of the board would have to be registered voters of the city. And then any additional members would need to be customers of the utility. So that's where we've currently landed. But that would allow for some representation from some of our larger businesses that weren't necessarily residents of Independence, but certainly had stake in utilities here.
There was a state requirement on that too, so.
Yes, for the Missouri Constitution, they have to be in state. So, you know, early conversations were obviously you want the best people for this board, the people that know business and know utilities, and that you have equal representation of both business and utilities and finances, and everybody knows a piece of those things, right? And initial conversations were like, we don't necessarily have as much concern for where that comes from as long as we have that expertise. But yes, the Missouri Constitution requires that they be in state. And then further, council did come to terms with they don't have to be, the quorum has to be residents here, but we still want large businesses to be able to be represented. And so they have to be a customer. The remaining members can be customers of the utility. The other big piece, obviously related to economic development, and that's a big, broad topic, right? That can go a lot of different ways. But basically, the concept was, could utility dollars be used to modify structures, demolish structures, modify power infrastructure in preparation for a big development project coming forward? Today, we cannot do that. So there are changes in here that would allow for that down the road. And then the other question there was related to whether or not that was just a board decision, was it a council decision? Again, there are rules related to this, and ultimately, only council can approve an ordinance, and economic incentives, as most big development projects come and apply for, incentives would have to be approved by the council. So at the end of the day, what the language modification, and I just got them from the attorney doing those modifications, haven't even sent them back out to council yet, is landed on, they will be effectively, this new utility board would review, similar to the PUAB, would review and recommend, but as far as economic development, council would still make that final decision. So it is our hope, and we've talked about this previously, that the PUAB would host or facilitate a public forum for kind of a Q&A related to these changes, to help educate people in advance of this going to the ballot.
Yeah, I've got a note here to talk about that when we get to the comments. So.
Perfect. So we would be looking currently, I believe, at an August ballot date. So.
But you'd want the forum before that, before
Oh, yes.
language and stuff. So we're probably looking at like February.
February,
timeframe.
March, yes,
yeah.
something like that. So we would have that forum. Again, obviously, these final changes need to go back to council. We intend to have one more, hopefully, just one more roundtable discussion to shore up the last changes that we just discussed this week. And then we would be able to move forward. But definitely would like the PUAB to have an involvement in that, and again, just host that forum.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then my next item is related to the move to the Commons and the shuffle. Just let's talk about shuffle of buildings overall. So by and large, the Commons are pretty fully occupied. IPL is still moving a piece here and there. And then the other piece, the other major piece that still needs to go is customer service. Utility billing needs to relocate from this building to the Commons. The primary holdup there is an issue with the countertop, and the bulletproof glass didn't match the same curve, so the countertops had to be redone. That's currently happening. That rework is happening now. And then there also has to be an inspection of the safe, where the safe goes in the new facility. That has to be inspected. That was supposed to happen last Thursday. So any comments related to that are supposed to be forthcoming soon. And then we would address any potential issues. And then we have to wait roughly 6 weeks for the company that manages the safe to do that relocation. So that's really kind of that, the thing holding up that first domino to fall. Because there are lots of things that rely on customer service moving out. So customer service vacates this building and goes to the commons, then we're pretty much fully operational at the commons. Backfilling here, again, maybe more information than you want, but backfilling here is police records coming over from the current PD facility to here. And then that allows municipal court to move from the existing city hall across the street into the existing PD facility and take up what is now records for the court staff and their multi-purpose room for actual courtroom. So that move is targeted to happen mid to late March. Court's going to shut down for 2 weeks to make that move. It's already scheduled. And we are tracking to be on schedule for that. But again, customer service utility billing coming out of here is that first domino that has to fall. The other piece of that is repayment of funds, right? So we talked about it in the study session on Monday, if you saw it, and if you didn't, here's what I said. This building appraised for $5 million. So PD is going to, over time, a period of 20 years, repay from the marijuana sales tax fund, repay IPL, the appraised value of this, plus some. So $300,000 a year roughly is going to come out of the marijuana sales tax fund to pay from IPD to IPL for the cost of this building. So just wanted to make you aware that that transfer was happening. So do you have any questions about the move or
Just
anything
the
else
one
I
I've
can
got
answer?
is, the only group that's not been mentioned is public health, because I work with them a lot on the exercises I've been doing.
Sure.
Where are they going to end up?
So health was originally scheduled to go in the first floor of IMC, where the council chamber will now be. There's a conversation going on, just a bigger conversation related to the future of public health as grants and things become more of a regional effort. And there are some duplicated services between our health department and the county's health department. The advisory board of health met last week and issued a letter to Christina Heinen, our health and animal services director, this week, just calling for an external evaluation of those services and what we do. So to be determined. However, the people that currently are on the health department side of that department are currently slated to also move into the PD facility on the 3rd floor. They do a lot of work with CSL and their vital records. People come to the city for vital records and then take that information immediately over to CSL. So keeping those in close proximity was important. So that's the current plan for that group.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Quick question. Customer service, are you able to move them without them being closed for a period? Will people have access to customer service throughout the move, or will they maybe?
I imagine that's going to have to be a day of closure. It was when we moved into this facility.
One day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But again, all of that hinges on the safe moving and all of those things.
Sure.
And it's something absolutely we will publicize. We've had to close customer service for some construction things here. They did some core drilling through the 2nd floor down to 1, and we had to close. They started at 4 in the morning, so we impacted operations as little as possible. And we always try to impact as little as possible, but for a full move of the group, I imagine we'll shut down for a day. And yes, we do have 2 kiosks. Thank you. We will not have a drive-through at the Commons, but we will have kiosks that people can still pay their bill without ever coming into the building if they so choose. Those will be operational with customer service moving over into that facility. They're already in place, finalizing that programming and getting those up and running, coinciding with the move.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now we're down to board member comments. Comments? I've got a few. but then again, too few to mention. I've got a couple things. One of them, don't get me started, that you mentioned, Lisa, was about the forum. Was at the governance meeting the other day when the city council was discussing this and looked about doing a public forum. Some people say we want to do a hearing. Well, it's not a legal proceeding. It's really just a chance for people to come and we can talk about this governance structure, the changes to the charter, and educate them. I also want to throw it open that for the next 2 PUAB meetings, we'll start the meeting off with, if people want to come by and ask questions about that governance or have questions, just can come here and we can talk. And then once we get done with that, then we'll move into the PUAB meeting. Because I thought about flipping it and doing that at the end, but it probably made more sense to have them come in and ask their questions or any questions we might get from people that we can use for discussion during that time. Because it's going to be a big education piece, and we want to do whatever we can do to get that through. So for the next 2, so for the February and the March meetings, we'll start off with governance discussion at the beginning for anybody, from the public that wants to send a note in to ask a question, to understand it better. So we'll start that, and then we'll also do this public forum in the evening, I'm assuming sometime, and we'll talk about more of the details on that and get that set up so that we can do our best to try to educate folks on what all this means. Because a lot of times things kind of fall by the wayside. People assume they understand something, and it's 180, like when we tried to do the charter changes before. Reading a lot of that language, and I was on the charter review committee, I couldn't tell you what they meant. So we want to make sure we give everybody the opportunity to get educated on this stuff. And I know during the day is tough for folks, like come to the PUAB meeting at 2:30 in the afternoon, but if we do an evening forum, at least you give more people a chance to come in, at least hear what's going on. And I don't know how that forum's going to work right now, but we'll talk about details on that and we'll get more out on that.
How would that be publicized?
City side, Lisa pushed her button, so I'll let her answer it.
We would put it out, of course, on all of the city's website, the city's social media pages, and post it as we would any public meeting. So we can let it, those are our primary notifications for any public meeting. So we'll follow the same process.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Just to make sure we get it as publicized as much as we can to
Yeah.
get folks here. And it's really it's been a long time since we've done any kind of a forum through the PUAB, so it'll be good to do that and at least start communicating with folks what's going on. Okay, anything else? Mr. Fears, anything you'd like to comment on?
Only that, the conversation's been real good. I think you've covered most everything. The only thing I would just reiterate what you said relative to the data center. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of information that may be applicable to other data centers that is not applicable in our situation. We've tried to do a good job of reducing the risk to the city and the citizens. So, I think I would just refer folks back to the December 8th study session. Was that study session? Yeah. And then also the January 12th study session. So that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, any further questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, with that, we will, next board meeting is February 19th here at 2:30, and we'll do our first public comment session at the beginning of that meeting. So other than that, we'll stand adjourned at 3:05.